I'm Sloan and welcome to my YouTube channel. I recently moved 1,000 miles from Iowa to Texas, and this is the very first plant tour that I'm going to be sharing in my new Texas home. I've been slowly building up my collection, growing cuttings out, and I'm excited to show you each and every single one of my plants, where I have them staged in my home and what they're looking like. I am committed this year to showing a new plant tour for winter, spring, summer, and fall. And this is our winter 2025 plant tour, but make sure to subscribe if you want to see a spring, summer, and fall one later this year. Along with that commitment, usually for my last two plant tours, I make sure that my plants look so good before I start filming. And I was trying to do that for this video, and then it just hit me that the point of me doing these videos is not to have the most perfect collection. And I also want to be sharing more updates more frequently of entire plant tours. And so if I wanted to be doing them more frequently, I can't take weeks to prep my collection. So you'll hear me talk about some of the work that needs to be done with my plants. Check in a quarter and see what they're looking like, because I'm sure that they are going to be a little bit different, as I'm planning on doing a good amount of work on them in the next few weeks and months. We are going to be starting this plant tour in my sunroom, which is where I am currently, then going around the rest of my house, and we're gonna finish out with bang in my office / plant room. So make sure to stick around for the end. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, so we are kicking this off with the plants that were right behind me. And let's start with my fiddly fig bambino right here. I recently repotted this, and it is doing quite well. It is my tallest plant. I would say with the plant stand, it's getting close to 5 feet tall. And this was one of my very first plants when I started getting into plants in 2021. I have some plants that are older than that, but this was the first one when I was really starting to collect them, if that makes sense. And it has grown so much for me. I'll pop up a picture of what it looked like in 2021. And I'm really quite happy with it. I also have my avocado tree, which was recently repotted as well, and it is so happy. It's putting out some new growth. This is one that I grew from a pit, and it's kind of been through it. It has lost all its leaves and came back multiple times. I'm hoping that now that it's in a ceramic pot instead of terracotta, it is going to like the increased level of moisture a bit more, and maybe I won't lose leaves so much, but so far, no complaints. And over here is my variegated fiddly fig. This it puts out maybe only 1 or 2 leaves a year. It's a very slow growing plant for me, but I also let it dry out quite a bit, and it's in terracotta, so it probably dries out a bit too much. I've been working on watering it more, and hopefully that will help. This is such a pretty plant and kind of a hard plant to find for sale. I've only seen it for sale one time, and that's when I picked it up. So I do really like it. It'd be cool if it got huge, because I've never seen a giant one. Next to it is my ficus audrey that needs repotted so badly. Let me show you what's going on under here. I did just water this one, but that's kind of giving you an idea on what's happening under there. So this is going to be repotted very soon, but it's so happy. I struggled with it, and then I put it outside this past summer, and it was doing so well that I just had to take it with me to Texas. I did get rid of, or I should say, a more positive term is I gave away a lot of my houseplants before moving, and I thought this was going to be one of them, but it did make the move with me, because it looks so luscious now. If you've ever moved across the country or just moved in general, you know it can take a really long time to get settled. So this is not the final form of my sunroom, but right now I have a lot of my plants on this little bench. I think one day I'd like to have full kind of shelving so I can utilize more of the space, especially as I'll have a lot more plants on moss poles. But for right now, this is working. And right here, I have one of not my only ponytail palm, I only have one. And this was a plant that I gave my husband for Valentine's Day years ago when we were just dating. That was something I used to do all the time, and now I don't, because I like plants a lot more than him now, but it was a little fun Valentine's Day tradition for many years, and it's growing really well. I really want it to be like 10 feet tall, by the end of my life. So we'll see if we ever get there. And here's my philodendron summer glory that I recently repotted. I also want this to grow really big, and I think these do size up pretty quickly, so I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping it's much bigger by the end of the year. And down here is the free plant. Oh, it looks like this needs some water. It's the free plant that I won when I was at East Austin Succulents and Tillery Street Plant Co. doing some plant shopping recently. I did film an entire plant shopping YouTube video there, and I will link all of the videos that I mention in the description box. So hopefully you can easily find those. I try to make it as easy as possible. I know I watch YouTube so much, and I like it when YouTubers make it super easy, so that's what I'll be doing. But I don't know what this is called, so let me know if you know what this could be. And next to it is my anthurium silver blush. This, oh my gosh, this is its newest leaf, I think. It's huge, and this is definitely in need of a repot, so that's going to be happening very soon. It also flowered for me recently, and I harvested the pollen, so I'm hoping one day I can use it to cross-pollinate either with itself or maybe with one of my other anthuriums if it's compatible, and then have anthurium berries and then seedlings eventually, so hoping for that. And it's next to my anthurium clarinervium, which is my first sort of rarer anthurium, if you want to put it that way. Like, you know, my first anthurium that wasn't just a typical anthurium, which I have 2 of those, so you'll see those soon. But this is in need of a repot more than even the silver blush. I was gonna see if I could show you underneath. You can see little roots peeking out there, and it just dries out so quickly. I think that's why the leaves aren't looking the best right now. So this is definitely on the list to repot. And you'll see that all of my anthurium, except for one, just because I haven't done it yet, I wrap sphagnum moss around the base, and I find that makes a big difference in keeping them happy. So I definitely recommend doing that, and also keeping them in ceramic pots, not terracotta. I do have one in terracotta that I will definitely be moving into ceramic sometime soon. Right here is just a normal green Hartley philodendron, and this is the first of the cuttings that I potted up that we are seeing today. And so here's your update. If you did watch that video of me potting up a bunch of my prop box cuttings, it's doing, you know, as well as it can, I guess, in here. I did keep it in my IKEA greenhouse to acclimate it from my prop box humidity to, you know, a bit lower humidity in the IKEA greenhouse, and now it's in my sunroom. And yeah, so far so good. And I'll show you all of the prop box plants that I have left to pot up soon, and we can talk more about that. And next to it is my Christmas cactus that is definitely so happy. It's blooming again this year. And this is such a fun plant for me because it was a free plant that was just in our first house when we bought it, you know, left by the previous owners. And so it's really special to me because I loved that house. I still do love that house, and I'll always have this plant to remember it by. I thought that was so sweet that those owners did that. And we do have quite a few blooms that are still, you know, yet to pop open. So looking forward to more. And back behind the front row of plants, I have another row. This is one of my just regular anthurium. And this was a gift from my mom to my husband years and years ago. So I also think that's really fun. This one flowers red flowers, and it hasn't flowered in years. So I'm trying to get it to flower this year. And it does seem to be a bit happier than it has been. It has a new growth point there. Is that maybe, that could be a leaf or a flower. I'm not really sure. And yeah, I'm just trying to be committed to watering it more, and I'll try to get it out of terracotta soon as well. And next to it is my very beautiful philodendron white princess. I think this plant is absolutely gorgeous. The variegation is just stunning, so pretty. And I just have it growing up a little kind of trellis situation for now. I haven't decided if this is one I'd want to put on a moss pole. Let me know if you think that I should. The leaves would definitely get bigger but I also think it's kind of cute with them being really small. I don't know. And this one I just grew from a cutting. And all of these plants are all touching, so it's kind of hard to show them. But this is one of my orchids. This one is my only large flowering Phalaenopsis orchid, and I'm so excited because I do see a bit of a little growth point there, so I'm hoping this is going to pop out soon and it will flower again. But this is one that I bought because it matches exactly the flowers from my wedding bouquet, and so I wanted to have my wedding bouquet with me in my house at all times. I also recreated my wedding flowers in my garden in Iowa, and so I don't have it anymore, but I filmed that entire thing, and that would have been great if we had stayed in Iowa, that I would every single year get my wedding flowers blooming again. And I definitely recommend doing that as a way to preserve your wedding flowers kind of indefinitely. But yeah, waiting on a bloom from that one. So again, definitely still setting up our house, but over here in this corner is currently where I have most of my cacti and succulents. And this is my huge jade plant. She's absolutely beautiful. Jade plant was something that Brian has had in his family for years, and so this is one that I plan on keeping for the rest of our lives. And I also have a little cutting. Hopefully I can show it. It's just in a little like candle jar. It desperately needs some help. I'm actually hoping to pot this up and have it grow like a bonsai tree this year, so that's on the list of something to do. Like I said, I just have a lot of things that I need to do with my plant collection right now, and it just wasn't feasible for me to get all of them done and also be able to get a plant tour out in winter. And in front of it is my variegated bear paw succulent, and this, I've been struggling with this ever since I got it up until recently, and now it has so much new growth. It's looking absolutely gorgeous, so I'm super happy with that. And I really think the trick is just a lot of water. It's getting a lot of sun now, but it always was in a south window getting a lot of sun. So now I really think it is just that I'm watering it much more, and it's definitely enjoying that. And right here I have a little snake plant. I think it's a bird's nest snake plant, I'm pretty sure. And these grow and look so cool when they have all of their little pups. So I'm looking forward to this one getting much bigger over the years. This one was one that I purchased in a recent YouTube video as well. Next to it is my donkey tail succulent. This was also one that I got for free from East Austin Succulents that I really need to pot it up and it needs some water. Back here I have a bunch of my golems jade. This is on my list to repot as well and to just get it into some pot that's gonna hold these in a bit more, but it's very, very happy. And kind of peeking in front of it is my 3 cacti that my family brought me back from Arizona when they went on a vacation years ago, and they have just gotten huge, especially that one. This isn't a plant thing, but I got it from my grandma. Oh my gosh. And there's junk stuck in it, so ignore that. But it's so cute. It's supposed to be like a little toad house, and you put it outside and just have it in your landscaping. But there are so many spiders in Texas, and they're so scary that I just feel like a spider is gonna live in it, not a toad. So I don't know. I'm scared to put it outside. So for right now, it's on this little table. I also have this little cactus that was a gift from a friend, and it's looked exactly the same for years. So actually maybe I should repot it. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, if it's been years, maybe the soil could just use a little refresh, but I don't know, it's definitely not unhappy. And here I have my banana tree, which I recently moved out of my IKEA greenhouse and into the sunroom. It was in my IKEA greenhouse on the top row and was just getting blasted with light. And it actually is supposed to have variegation, but I think it was getting too much light for the variegation to shine through, which is part of the reason I moved it in here. But I wanted a banana tree so badly when I first started getting into houseplants. And this is the pup of a pup of a pup, I think, of my first original banana tree, which is really fun. When we were moving, it was obviously much easier for me to take a pup versus a big banana tree. So I just have one of the little babies now. And over here is my string of pearls, which if you remember what my string of pearls looked like before, it's much shorter now and it's definitely unhappy. I think a lot of the roots have died off and it's just a matter of time before I lose all of these, but I'm not really sure. I'm trying to mist the top of this and just keep it well watered so I can get the roots a bit more happy, because if they did die, it was definitely an underwatering issue. So we'll see, but I did take some cuttings that I have. So if something happens to it, I have the cuttings. And this was also a Valentine's Day gift that I gave my husband years ago. So I would really like to keep this alive. And it was beautiful. It was so long. It's still pretty long, but it was even longer before. So hopefully I can get it back in tip-top shape. If you have any suggestions, let me know what I should try. And down here is the last plant in my sunroom. This is the Sansevieria pinguicula, also called the walking Sansevieria. And this has been a wish list plant for me for years and years and years and years. And when I was plant shopping here, I saw it at East Austin Succulents and freaked out and had to take it home. They grow in just the coolest way. So I'm so excited to see this one grow. Next, I want to give you an update on my prop box plants. So when we realized that we were gonna have to move across the country, I thought that it was gonna be in the middle of the summer and things would be really, really hot and it would be really hard to get like a U-Haul or anything like that. And we ended up moving when it was a little bit cooler, but regardless, just with taking our dogs and some of our stuff, it was gonna be too hard for us to get a U-Haul. And instead we rented 2 SUVs and Brian and I were in one with our dogs and then my mother-in-law drove the other one. And the SUVs were filled with my plants and some of our stuff that was super breakable and we didn't want the movers to take. So these are the plants that I basically wanted to keep, but didn't want to keep the full plant because it would just be too big to fit into the 2 SUVs. And you'll see a lot more of these that I already repotted or in my IKEA greenhouse or kind of around the house, but these are the ones that I haven't yet potted up. So I have a bunch of Syngonium 3 Kings cuttings in here, and it looks like they're putting out at least some new leaves, which is really exciting. I definitely like when those are pretty well variegated as a plant, so I'm super happy about that. Then kind of hiding back here, I have a variegated philodendron burl marks, and this is also, I think this is a fresh leaf actually, that's connected to that one. I also have a philodendron billietiae, and this is a Rhiphidophora decursiva. All of these are really well rooted, so it's really just a matter of time before I get these into soil. It's definitely on my list of things to get done ASAP. I also have a philodendron subhestatum in here. And then this is actually one that I recently just threw in the prop box. It is a variegated African violet leaf that I got from my grandma. And I have a second leaf that I have in water, and that one is rooting and this one is not. So I might move this to water, but it has such a short stem. I thought that we would try the moss. And I have 3 total prop boxes. So we'll go through this one. Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on in here. So right here I have my, oh wait, there's a couple that I'm touching. This is my Epipremnum skeleton key, and it's very much a goal of mine to get this to mature this year, to get the skeleton key leaves. So I'm gonna be putting that one on a moss pole. And kind of mixed in is my philodendron painted lady hiding back there. Let's see, I also have a Syngonium albo in here. And I took actually multiple cuttings of every plant. So most of these have doubles. That was just my way of having backup, which I would definitely recommend doing if this is something that you're considering. I also would just generally recommend this because it was a really easy way to take my plants across the country. It would have been easy if I were flying too. I just wouldn't have put them in sphagnum. I would have had them in like a paper towel probably. And this is a philodendron oxypopense, which I'm excited to see mature hopefully as well. Maybe we'll flip this around. This is a full one. I have a philodendron squamiferum here. Oh no, this is a philodendron Florida ghost actually. I think my squamiferum is in a different box. box. It does look like I have a dead leaf. I don't know. That's probably one of my Syngonium albo leaves, but I'm not really sure. I don't think I'm missing anything. This is a Monstera Leschleriana, which I also really want to get to mature this year. And then, see, in this back corner, which this is so well rooted, it's almost like it's a plant. This is another Syngonium Three Kings cutting. And this one looks like it does have some good variegation, which is awesome. I accidentally took multiple cuttings of this. I just forgot that I had already taken cuttings. So that's why I have so many, but yeah, that's this prop box. And this one is, I guess, the emptiest one. So not too much going on here, but it does have one of my favorite plants, which is the Philodendron Splendid. And that one has put out a new leaf. I definitely want to get this one on a moss pole ASAP. This has matured like crazy since I bought it. I'll put in a picture of what it looked like when I first put it on a moss pole. It's been such an easy plant. And it's a cross between, I can't remember exactly what, but I'll put it on the screen. And yeah, it's just a beautiful plant and it is so easy in my experience. And this is where I have my Philodendron squamiferum. So they're known for their crazy stems. And this is one I really need to get on a moss pole because this is the cutting of the leaf I put in here. And this is the leaf it put out for me, which is just itty bitty. I don't know if that was a top cutting or not. This is the other one that I have in here. So yeah, if I want this to get to maturing, you know, it was very mature before, so I should get it on a moss pole ASAP. And then I have a few cuttings of my Monstera Standeliana albo, which this has a dead leaf on it, ignore that. But yeah, this is also a favorite of mine. I literally only have 2 plants in my living room, so I want to show you my living room next, but it won't take long. I would say my living room is probably the darkest room in the house, but it is next to my sunroom, so it does get some light, just not a lot of direct light. And this is where I have my variegated peace lily. This is one of my favorite plants. They're so beautiful and their flowers smell so good. So it's hanging out here, and please ignore the art. We are almost unpacked, but I always like to say that the last thing you do when unpacking, like how you know that your house is done, is when you have art on your walls. And we're so close, but we're just not quite there yet. Also in my living room is one other plant, which is this golden pothos. And this was a plant that I took cuttings from a plant that I had in Iowa, so it was a prop box plant, but the original mother plant was from my grandma, who gave her plant to my mom, so it's, you know, just a golden pothos, but the origins are pretty special to me. One other thing about filming today is that it's really dark, and Texas is generally, in my experience, I have only been here a few months, very bright and sunny. And so I also almost procrastinated filming this for a sunnier day, but it's supposed to rain over the next week. And it's just one of those things. If I wait for the perfect time, I'm just not going to do it. But I am blanking on the name of this plant. This is one I always forget. I think partially also because when I purchased it, it was mislabeled. And then it was actually one of you in my last plant tour video that told me the real name of it. And I think you're absolutely right. But this is my only plant in my entryway. And I recently worked on it in a plant tours video, but it's a crawling philodendron, and I'm trying to get it to grow in a circle around the edge of the pot. That way it just takes up a little less space than if it was growing straight along the pot. I would already have to be repotting it. So hopefully it does that pretty well. That's how I have my philodendron gloriosum growing, and it's doing great. So hopefully this one will get there soon. I have 3 plants in my dining room, and one is this Monstera Standeliana aurea, which is so pretty. Are you kidding? This is its newest leaf, but yeah, it is doing very well. It's just included in kind of the centerpiece on my dining room table. And the big thing with Monstera Standelianas is that if they're not climbing, they're kind of known for putting out runners, which are like these big long stems with no leaves. But so far so good with this one. It hasn't put out any runners, so I am not too worried about having it climb. But if it starts to put out runners, I'll probably take some cuttings and get it climbing up a moss pole because the runners are really annoying. And over here on this bookshelf, I have my philodendron Jose Buono with this cute little magnet on it, these little eyeballs. My mom got me those for my birthday years ago. This philodendron likes to put out leaves with pretty low variegation. I have it in pretty low light, and I was hoping maybe that would do something. I don't know. I've also thought about putting it in higher light, but I think at the end of the day, it's probably just the genetics of this particular plant. But you can see like this leaf has a fair amount of variegation, and this one had a ton. It was absolutely beautiful when it first came out. This is a cutting from the mother plant, and the mother plant also had one leaf that was just absolutely stunning, and then the rest weren't. And so, like mother like daughter, I guess this plant is also just looking a little boring. And so I have considered just getting a new Jose Buono with better genetics, but I don't know, for now I have this one growing. It's definitely cute on this little bookshelf, but we'll see if I keep it forever. Over on my arcade, which if you subscribed back when we were at our old house, I kept my arcade in our sunroom, but now it's in the dining room. I have my goldfish plant, and this is a recent addition. I also have a grow light up there on top. I will link this grow light down below. I'm loving it so far because it would have been really hard to get a grow light situated here, but it was so easy. It's just a plug-in, clip-on grow light. And yeah, they sent it to me, but this isn't sponsored or anything. This goldfish plant hasn't been doing the best for me for years. I haven't been able to get it to bloom since like 2021. I don't know, it's been a long time. And I definitely think the soil could use a refresh, but I also just think it needed more light. And so that's something this grow light is definitely delivering. And these just get the cutest little goldfish shaped blooms. So I'm really hoping to see this bloom this year. Over here in my kitchen, we have the cutest little open shelving setup. I've never had the luxury of a kitchen big enough to do open shelving, so I've been loving this. But I have a couple of plants here. So first I have my Dracaena Janet Craig, which this was the plant of the year in 2024. And I filmed a whole video plant shopping and looking for the 2024 plant of the year. And I just posted the 2025 one, and I'll link that down below. But yeah, I think it looks so cute in this pot, and I love having it on the shelf. And then next to it, I do need to actually pot this up soon, but I have this little plant that I got when I was in Iowa for Christmas. It's a Tradescantia Pink Panther, and this is a plant that I had at one point and it passed away, and so I'm excited to be able to try out having it again. And then over here I have one of my other quote-unquote normal anthurium. This is one that I've really wanted because I love these deep purpley pink blooms. And so I don't know that it's getting enough light here to really bloom again. So once this bloom dies, I may move it to higher light, but for right now, I think it looks really cute in my kitchen. And my last kitchen plants are all on my windowsill in front of my sink, which is exactly where I've always kept my propagations. The majority of these are propagations. Right here, I have my variegated Thanksgiving cactus, which has grown so much since I got it, and it has bloomed for me a couple times. I'm guessing this needs a bigger pot. I don't see any roots coming out of the bottom, but it's just huge. And then next to it, I have some of my string of pearls cuttings that I mentioned earlier that I was taking kind of as a precaution, just in case something happens to the larger plant. I took a lot of cuttings because I wanted to have a decent size to start off with. And I don't think these have rooted in. Oh, I guess I do see. It's very hard to tell, but I promise I can see a few roots in there. So that is a really, really good sign. I also have a philodendron Burl Marx cutting here, and it's rooting, which I'm so thankful about because this was one that when I was digging around in the prop box, I pulled it out and it had no roots on it, which is crazy that it was sitting in the prop box for months and never rooted, and now is rooting just fine. So it's definitely liking water much more. And similarly, my variegated heartleaf philodendron just barely had any roots in the prop box, and so I moved it into water. It definitely has some little roots, and also this tiny little variegated leaf. Look at how cute that little leaf is. I'm excited to get this one into soil soon. Over here I also have my moss ball, and this just lives in water, and I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do with it. I had it in a cute little setup at our other house, and here I just have it in a jar. So we'll see what I end up doing with it. And then I have my pothos enjoy cuttings, and I also pulled these out of the prop box, and they had no roots, and they also are not putting roots out. I guess this one has a couple roots, but the other cutting doesn't have any, so I don't know if that one's gonna make it, but that's okay because we have one cutting, and also that's an easy plant to replace. And then this is my other variegated African violet leaf. This one is extra variegated and it does have roots, so I'm super excited about that. This would be a really awesome plant to be able to grow out. I've only seen one of them for sale ever, and I bought it for my grandma. Oh, losing the leaf. So I would love to have one of my own. Very thankful to my grandma for giving me a cutting. Oh my gosh. And the final plant that I have up here is my Hoya Hushcleana variegata, which this is always trying to put out blooms, and oftentimes the blooms don't make it, they just fall off. But this one is looking like it's gonna make it, and the blooms are so funny because they smell like popcorn, and I love popcorn. So yeah, it's very cute. It could probably use a bit of a bigger pot. It has grown, believe it or not, so much since I got it. It was quite small when I originally purchased it, but it's very happy. Next, we're in my laundry room, and one of the plants I have in here is one of my other cacti, another Thanksgiving cactus. And this one, I just love the pot that it's in. I feel like it's patinaed so beautifully, and it blooms for me every single year, no complaints. I also have my variegated string of pearls growing here, and this is in a pot that I threw and glazed myself, so it's extra special, and it's getting really, really long. I think I want to get this into a bigger pot and kind of, you know, circle it around the top of the pot this year for sure, so I'm excited for that. And I also have my Maranta silver band in here. I worked on this extensively in a recent video, so I won't belabor you with too much information about this plant, but it is just looking so good. Look at how purple this leaf is, and the newest leaves are huge. That's absolutely massive, so I think it does really like my laundry room. Next, we're in my bedroom. These are the plants that I keep on my nightstand. First, I have this Pilea peperomioides that I just know is so insanely root bound, and he's repotted so much, but it has all of these little babies coming out, and this was a baby from my mom's Pilea peperomioides, so it's extra special, and I'm gonna get it potted up super soon for sure. And right here is my only African violet, and I don't know if you would consider it variegated, but it does have some white splashing. This leaf kind of had some, even though that leaf is dying. Just a little bit kind of in the center. It's probably not variegated, but I don't know, it is really pretty, and I didn't think it was doing very well, and then it put out a couple of blooms, so I guess it is happy. And if it's happy, I'm happy. And then I have this cute little chair. I don't know why it took me so long to think of the word chair. And up top, I have my Caladium lindenii, which is in desperate need of a repot. It dries out in like 2 seconds flat. And I also have one of my little magnet faces on it, which is so fun. And then the other two plants here, which Poplar is standing in front of. She likes to look out the window. It's one of her favorite things. These are two plants that were in my prop box. So I have a Monstera adansonii. I guess these are two cuttings in here that came from my huge Monstera adansonii. And then I have Pothos Marble Queen cuttings in this super cute bird pot as well. In my bathroom on the floor, I keep my rattlesnake calathea. This also needs repotted, but overall it's doing pretty well. I just think it could use some fresh soil, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's really root bound. So we'll see, but it likes the humidity in here for sure. And then in the windowsill, I have my String of Hearts Silver Glory. I bet you're sick of me saying that things need repot it, but this one really does. It is really happy, which is great, and it's almost always blooming. But yeah, I bet it's crazily root bound. And then this is one of my other Phalaenopsis orchids. I have 3, and so this is the only one that's blooming right now. It is just absolutely beautiful. I got this one from a grocery store, which I feel like is a pretty typical place to get an orchid from, but it is just beautiful, and it also needs repotted. There's a theme here. I do usually film my repotting videos, so make sure to keep an eye out for those videos as well if you like repotting videos. And if you can believe it, we are in the very last room in my house, my plant room / office. So over here I have my philodendron, I think it's white knight, and I just have this growing up kind of like a little stick. And this is a pot that I painted in a pottery class, so I love this pot. But yeah, it's doing pretty well. I think this is also, it's very similar to my white princess, which I showed you earlier in my sunroom. And if I wanted it to increase in size, I could have it grow up a moss pole, but I don't know, so far it is looking cute right here. And it is right next to my Mandula pothos, which was one of my prop box cuttings that I potted up recently. Behind it is my pitcher plant. This was pretty new to me. I also got this plant when I was in Iowa for Christmas. My mom has a huge pitcher plant, so it has been my dream to have a big one, and I'm excited to see this one grow out. And I also have another one of these little halo grow lights. This one's a bit smaller. Actually, when I ordered it, I thought that it was the same size as the other one, but it worked out because I feel like these plants don't really need anything much bigger than this one necessarily. And I will also link this one in the description, and I'll be sure to specify which one is which. Along with that, I will just link everything I can in the description box, including any pots that I have. I know I can link at least some of them. Obviously not this beautiful one because that's subjective. I don't know if this is really beautiful, but I made it, so can't link that one. But you know, just everything I can. Over in this corner of my office, I have my third and final little mini grow light, and I'll start with this plant under here. This is my global green pothos, which is another one of my prop box cuttings, and I just kind of have it in the shadow of my anthurium veitchii, which is crazily root bound. It needs repotted so badly, but I have been keeping up watering. I don't really want to touch this leaf because I don't want anything to happen to it, but it, even though it's root bound, is putting out this cute leaf. And if you know anything about anthuriums, their leaves expand over time, and so I feel like this is already looking pretty elongated, so I'm excited to see what it ends up looking like as it gets bigger, because they're known for having this ribbing on the leaf, but also eventually they're supposed to get like super long. I feel like none of mine really are that like really long length, so maybe this one will be. I hope so. And it's also just growing very strangely, like particularly this leaf. I don't know where I had it that made it do that and grow to the sun like that, but something happened. And this is just where I tell you that, hey, we moved and things are still a mess. So yeah, this isn't like a pretty section of my house, so I guess ignore that. But I do have both of my aglaonema here. This is my aglaonema pictum tricolor, and it is next to this box that is next to my aglaonema chocolate. And these are my two favorite aglaonema. I just think that they are so beautiful, and they're a great low light plant. They don't need any extra light in this room, which is really nice. This room's pretty dark, which is why I have so many grow lights. And these are our last plants to talk about. So I'll start with my Monstera Thai Constellation. This is very root bound. It very much needs repotted very badly, but I do have it growing up a moss pole. And this is such a neat trick. This is something I learned from Wild Fern, is to keep a cup on the top of your moss poles with holes in it, and then I can just pour water in the cup throughout the day and it will slowly trickle water down the moss pole. It's just such a great way to keep it moist without having to be putting water in it all the time, because it handles the trickling down slowly for you. And I'm really hoping after I repot this just explodes with growth, because I think mine is still pretty small, but the variegation is really quite pretty, so I can't complain too much. And then on the other side of my IKEA cabinet is my philodendron gloriosum. I actually had 3 of these when we were in Iowa, and now I'm only down to 1, but this one is still so pretty. It's huge, and there's a new leaf coming out that is looking like it's also going to be huge, so absolutely love that. And you know, a number of the leaves are over here kind of pressed up against the cabinet. This is just such an easy plant. It's pretty low light, and yeah, I would say the only thing that's difficult about it, well, 2 things. One is that they can be spider mite magnets, but this one has never had spider mites. My other 2 did, so I don't know, but this one's good. And the only other thing that's difficult about them is that they are crawlers, and so they can take up a lot of space. But this is one that I do have growing in a circle along the outside of my pot, and that's going really well. So that just allows it to take up less space in your house. You don't have to have as big of a pot for the same size plant. So love doing that. All right, now let's dig into my IKEA cabinet, which is largely filled with plants that were cuttings. I would say the majority for sure, because they're still acclimating from being in a prop box to being, you know, in closer to room humidity, although 80% is pretty high humidity. In the back, I have my Hoya obovata splash. Nothing super interesting going on there. And then here in the front, I have my Hoya macrophylla albo, and this is growing in another pot that I threw and glazed myself. This is a plant that was blooming for me constantly before. It would actually put out blooms all the time, but wouldn't really put out growth. So hopefully in this house it puts out growth, but I would also love to see some blooms again. But yeah, it's not doing too much right now. And then over here I have my Tradescantia yellow hill that I grew from cuttings from my larger plant. I used to have such a big one, so I'm excited to see this grow out. It has put out some growth, I think, since I potted it up, and I have all of these on the top shelf. This is when I recently moved to the top shelf, but I tend to keep Hoyas on the top shelf because they can handle the really bright grow light, so hopefully that one does well. And then back here's my Hoya australis Lisa, which is one of my favorite Hoyas. In the front here, I have my variegated Amydrium zippolinum, which is so happy and beautiful. It's such a pretty plant, but it's just not sizing up or really doing much of anything, but every leaf it puts out is beautiful. So I guess I can't really complain. These get really cool when they mature, so maybe one day we'll start to fenestrate and the leaves will get bigger, but it seems happy. So I don't know. Back there, I have my last Phalaenopsis orchid. It's a mini Phalaenopsis orchid, and it was a gift for my husband. And you can actually see it has some like yellowing right here on the top. And I think it was just getting too much light. I had it on the top shelf, so I just moved it down one more shelf, and I'm hoping it likes it down there a bit more. And it also is a plant that needs repotted, so soon I'll repot it and see if that helps. And here I have my beefsteak begonia. This is the plant I'm probably the most worried about of the plants I potted up from cuttings, because these leaves are just looking really kind of floppy. Actually, this one, that seems like it has roots. That one's seeming better, so maybe it's gonna be fine. But that's my only begonia right now, and it's such a cool begonia, especially when they get larger. They just kind of all bush out from the center and look really awesome. So I'm excited to see that one grow. And then here is my Hoya compacta. This is always putting out blooms for me. You can see the peduncle here that it's put out quite a few blooms from. And the blooms smell like Tootsie Rolls. I love them so much. But this one was on the top shelf. It's actually never been anywhere other than the top shelf. Essentially, I got this plant around the time I got my IKEA cabinet, and so it's just always been in my cabinet on the top shelf, and it's always blooming, and so I just never really wanted to move it. But it does have a lot of sun stressing and lighter colors on the top, and so I wanted to try moving it a shelf down just to see if, I don't know, I get more of a green color, and I would also love to see it be growing a bit more, and it has a lot of sparse spaces. I'm not really sure what that's about. Let me know if you have any guesses. I could be underwatering, I suppose, but I don't know, it's so hard to tell. Like Hoyas generally I feel like don't need watered as much, so I don't know. And I'm probably gonna try repotting it this year just because it's really hard to tell when you have a pot that has a connected saucer like that. I don't really know if it's root bound, and so I just want to take it out, take a look at it, see what we're working with. I could see that maybe it is root bound, but regardless, it's been years since I've refreshed the soil, and so I do feel like I could use refreshed soil, and if I'm gonna do that, I might as well put it in a new pot, even if it ends up being the same size pot. But I don't know, I bet it's root bound. And our last 4 plants are down here on the bottom. I have my anthurium fingers, which wasn't doing super well for me, and so that's why I put it in the cabinet with higher humidity, and it has been putting out some new growth. It's kind of hard to tell in here, but there's a little stem there and there's a little leaf there, so I do think that it is liking life in the cabinet much more. I'm excited for that to get bigger. And then here I have my Syngonium pink splash cutting, and this one's kind of crazy to me because I had a huge Syngonium pink splash, so it's wild that I'm down to 1 cutting because the backup cutting that I took passed away. So I'm hoping that this does well and I can get it into a big bushy plant, but worst case scenario, I gave away a lot of cuttings of this plant to a number of my family and friends. So worst case, I can just take more cuttings from them, but I don't know, hopefully this one just does okay. And then here in this mug, I have my philodendron cream splash, which is just one of my favorites. It's so pretty, and I want that to be a big, full, trailing plant someday. And then our very last plant is my Epipremnum pinnatum albo, which I want to have in a big, full, bushy pot someday. But for right now, I just have a few cuttings in this pot that I potted up, and yeah, hopefully it'll be huge at some point. And those are all of my plants right now in winter 2025. I'm also planning on purchasing a lot more plants. I found some really cool plant shops in the Austin, Texas area where I live, and so I'm so excited to be doing more plant shopping. So if you like plant shopping videos, make sure to subscribe. There's gonna be a lot more coming. I can also link my plant shopping playlist down below along with my last 2 plant tours if you're curious to see how my collection has changed over the years. And if you wouldn't mind, if you watched this video all the way through, I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider liking and or commenting down below. It's those little things that help the YouTube algorithm push my videos out to people like you who might enjoy it and help me grow as a small creator. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!